the revolution starting inside. An instrumental part of Agora worldwide. Agora worldwide. Agora worldwide. Counter economics. Agorist strip. Black market click. Move a quick flip. Can't regulate this. Agorist strip. Black market click. Move a quick flip. Can't regulate this. Agorist.
Agorist.
Agorist. Nexus. Agorist.
It's the Agorist Acres podcast. I'm Brandon. I've got my great co-host Dag. How you doing, Dag?
Doing pretty good, man. Got me some whiskey here. I have a feeling I might need it for this one.
Oh yeah. I've got a got a couple beers. So I'm definitely happy. We've got a very exciting episode. This is going to be a longer one, but you're going to be on the edge of your seat still for all of it, probably. These Endgame episodes these Endgame episodes are, I mean, they've always got me on the edge of my seat for sure. So super interesting. Before we get into it, want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Presearch, Decentralized search engine. And, you know, we always say, earn crypto as you search, blah, blah, blah. But I think that a lot of people overlook the keyword staking feature. So if you have let's say you have an affiliate link for Rabbit Feed or whatever, you just put in you put your keyword in as rabbit, and then use your affiliate link. And whenever people search for rabbit, your ad will come up at the top if you outbid everybody, and then your affiliate link is used. So, it's also a great way to have your investment work for you. So I love crypto. If you
can pull it out at any time. You
can cancel your your keyword stake, or your also known as your keyword advertisement or whatever, at any time you want, and take those tokens back. Help us out. Click the affiliate link so that so Presearch knows that we're worth sponsoring. We'll get right into it. And
I actually want to make one quick point there about what you said on the keyword staking. On the PC version, anyhow, there's only one ad, and that'll be your ad. So on Google, there's 3 or 4 ads sometimes. It's a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. There's only one ad. I think mobile, sometimes they do more ads, but on the PC anyhow, there's just one ad. So it's you get really exclusive rights to a word. It's kind of cool. So, that's all.
Yeah, and the Android version, I haven't had the Android. They came out with a new app that you can make default on Android, which has just been awesome. It's also got it's a web browser that they came out with, and it's also got ad blocking on it and incognito mode. It's a sweet web browser. It's so awesome. I wish they'd come out with a browser for the desktop version, but I've only seen one ad for the Android version too. So
okay, cool. Maybe they've updated that then.
Yeah, I don't, or I might be even mistaken, but
I probably am. But at any rate, at least on the one, at least it's you're right up there front and center. So it's it's pretty cool. It is one of the coins that you can actually really use for something while you're just holding it. So. So really cool.
I also wanted to make an announcement before we get into all of the other articles that we are working on another documentary. And if you haven't seen the first documentary that we dropped, it's only 6 minutes long, but it's great. It's about 3D printing. It's on Odyssey. If you search 3D printing, 3D printed guns, the debate is over. Really solid. We've only gotten positive feedback from it. So definitely check that out. But our next documentary that we're working on right now is actually based off of this podcast series that we're doing with all these Endgame episodes. So it should be really solid. And I did want to announce that that we are I think we're far enough along to where I can feel safe enough to say that we are in the midst of this new documentary. So, with that said, go ahead and drop this new article, Jack.
All right. So, well, the article itself is
from today
is new. Yeah, this particular thing isn't necessarily a new incident, but yeah, I think that what from what I was reading was that this is kind of newly like exposed as to how much it's actually happening. But basically, the cops or the authorities or the man is without like a warrant or anything, they're like requesting keyword search results. And who's making them. So there's been instances in the past where like this has been used, like for instance, very famous case was the Casey Anthony trial, where they looked up her search history and found she had like researched chloroform before her daughter mysteriously died. So they sort of use that in the trial or whatever. Now, and you can make a case for, okay, if there's a murder trial and, let's say you can make a good case or get a warrant or something, right? That might be one thing. But what they're actually doing in some instances is just looking up particular search phrases and then whoever looked them up, they can go after, investigate when, they might have actually done nothing wrong. So like, let's say somebody, comes up missing, they'll look up everybody who has ever searched their name or the address they lived at, which of course, lots of innocent things, like maybe the house was for sale a few years ago and you were researching it, there's always tons of things that could happen. I mean, just for me personally, I had to butcher a pig a couple years ago, and I was kind of doing some research on the best way to do that. And one thing I Googled and instantly regretted Googling it was, a 22 penetrate a skull. I was like, oh, that's not something that's good to Google, but at the same time, it's totally, innocent. Like I'm not out there trying to murder people, but I really wouldn't want the cops to just take that I Googled that and say, well, we need to do an investigation on that motherfucker. So there's they have a few examples in this article, which we'll link to. It's pretty interesting, but just another reason to, you should like Presearch, guys, because, some of us are curious people, man, and we look up a lot of weird shit, it doesn't necessarily mean we're up to anything nefarious. Sometimes it's scientific or whatever. But some of the examples that I've given might be a little like extreme, but if we really want to look at what's been going on with censorship and everything since this COVID nonsense started, where they ban people for misinformation or whatever, if let's say you Google something like, I don't know, vaccine related, and you can be marked as an anti-vaxxer or something, maybe they come take your kids away. I don't know. I'm not trying to jump to like wild conclusions, but I don't think that's not a super wild conclusion, is it?
No, I think it's kind of the direction that we're heading, unfortunately. So, but I hope I'm wrong. I've got a pretty good track record of being right, unfortunately. So yeah.
On a long enough timeline.
Yeah, probably not the best thing to Google would be like pipe bomb or explosives or something. But
they use that as an example in some of these articles about it, actually, which is kind of funny. So yeah, and then also, VPNs and all that nonsense too are also helpful. And again, I mean, use something like Presearch, because even things that are like, might be a little more like, I don't know, like even search engines other than Google, like they do mention like Yahoo and stuff like that also do that. So
there's also problems with the browser. So if you're using Chrome, they're still able to pretty much track and record a lot of your data when using Chrome. So definitely, I think right now, like 80 or 90% of all internet traffic is through Chrome. So definitely get away from, the Chrome browser and any browser that's attached to some mega corporation, like Internet Explorer and those ones. So right now, I think maybe Brave browsers might be the safest, but I really hope that Presearch makes a browser and integrates it into their integrates. Well, they've got a Presearch browser on Android, but hopefully they make a desktop one and they integrate their coin into it, so we can, for curiosity's sake, if we want to, we'll be able to search pipe bomb or something. Yeah. Because I'm curious. Like, I don't think I'd ever make one, but like I can't say that I would never search for it or look on how to do it. Of course, I followed the non-aggression principle, so I would never use it for aggressive purposes. But
every now and then in used bookstores, you can find some good books on insurgency. Or at least I've heard that. If you get lucky,
heard that.
You don't have to look anything.
My friend told me.
And then you don't have to look anything up on the internet. So used bookstores are great. Oh fuck, we done with that one?
Yeah, I think that covers that article. Now,
yeah, it is a cool article, so I do recommend you guys go read it. It's and it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but
Yeah, and I guess in the article too, I do want to mention in the article. I think we've looked at like 20 articles today, guys. So, but I think in this article they do talk about recording IP addresses and stuff too. So, and Dad mentioned VPN.
That's how they find out.
Yeah.
They're not just saying 5 people search for this. It's here's their fucking address of who and when they search for this. So yeah, it's really up your ass.
Yeah. So VPN is pretty much like before it was like, okay, if I want to like illegally like download something, VPN, but now it's like VPN for almost everything. Like do not turn off your VPN. That's kind of like the direction. Well, that's pretty much what we're in now. Is these are the days where you pretty much keep your VPN on at all times.
Because it's not just specific circumstances like what we were just talking about with okay, we think this crime's been committed, let's go look at it. But rolling into our next subject,
well, who knows, right? Like tomorrow they could say climate deniers, and if you've ever looked at climate history, then you could be added to a new list, or
exactly. And it could even do something to maybe affect your credit score, based on your web history, as some people are suggesting, and our good buddies down at the IMF have suggested as well, that your credit score should be based to your web history. And with at least what I'm taking away from this, and tell me if you're reading the same thing, it almost sounds like, and of course this is just how they frame it, but the way they're framing it is like, no, it's just so that poor people will have a better chance of getting loans that they so desperately need. They're like, because the traditional credit system isn't very good at determining if you're good at paying stuff back. I might argue with that. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but mine was pretty accurate for a while, and I'm making it better, but they're like, oh yeah, because since people aren't going into bank branches anymore, it used to be you have your bank branch, and the people, and because they know you and they're comfortable with you, they give you loans based on that more than like your credit history and stuff. And first off, I call bullshit on that. Like, yeah, that maybe was the way it was like back in the day. Like my dad tells me stories about that, but it wasn't that like, oh, he couldn't get a loan. It was because he was good with his bills and paying shit back on time, just like the credit score like tracks, that his banker would give him loans and stuff. And then of course everything's so corporatized these days anyhow. It's not like the fucking loan officer. I don't think they have that much like choice about it. I think if anything, they'd err on the side of caution. And that's okay, I say that, but like historically, like back in like 2008 with the crash and everything, like there were a lot of cases where like the loan officers would lie to get people the loans because the government and the Fed was giving them tons of money to do these loans. So maybe I take back exactly what I said about that, but there are definitely instances where that could be the case. But that is the way that it's being framed a lot, is that it's just to it's just to help the poors. And then again, of course, we have to talk about the the issues with incentive of giving loans to people who you shouldn't give loans for. And then finally, you know, when it comes a lot of times to doing loans, it's not even like the bank or loan officer that's the one that's responsible for making sure you get it. Like if you go and you try to buy a car from like a dealership, like that car salesman, maybe he's on the level, maybe he's a little shysty, probably at least a little bit, but they're not necessarily accurate with what they report to, you know, the banks that they get financing through. You know, I might know that from personal experience. Same thing if you're buying a home, you know, a lot of times they'll do things like reorganize how it's rang up or whatever. I've seen instances where like, you can get a loan to have like the loan will pay for equipment, but not the install equipment. So the company just takes away the install price, but then jacks up the price of the equipment. So at any rate, you know, there's always ways to get around that nonsense, you know. But I have to say on the other side of the coin, like as a lender, let's say we're in a free market, you know, whatever. Let's imagine ourselves in Agoristan or whatever, right? Like if you're a lender, like I think that you could and should use any information available to you to make the decision about how you loan money, you know, to people. I think that that's very fair. I think you'd be as discriminatory as you want, you know, when it comes to loaning money. But of course, the issue with stuff like this is that we don't live in some sort of free market thing, right? And things like banking and lending money are extremely controlled by government. So to think that this would be any sort of honest tool used just for business purposes, I think is, you know, a fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, all of this government nonsense, and I've been saying this since like 2002, all of it is all of it's got good intentions. All of it is like, oh, you know, it's good for XYZ, you know, but it turns into this like monstrosity that is just, you know, terrorizing and tyrannical. And that's pretty much, I mean, you know, that's pretty much how every single government program has gone. Either terrorizing or tyrannical or completely burdening and impoverishing taxpayers. So you either get one or the other or both. And, you know, at first Social Security cards were not used. You know, I look at my grandpa's, my great grandfather's Social Security card, and it's made out of like metal, and it actually says on it not to be used. Not to be used. I forget the exact saying, but like not to be used to identify or whatever. So yeah, it's you know, give them an inch and they'll take 30 miles on you, and you know, how much control and power do we really want to give to these extortionists, you know? So yeah, I think we're wraps up that article, unless there's something else you wanted to mention on that, Doc.
Use Presearch.
Yeah. Use Presearch. We really believe in them, guys. And
yeah,
and
well,
the CEO,
they're not paying us to put these articles out there. I'm just saying, like, it just wraps up perfectly.
Yeah, it just it's actually a coincidence. You know, believe us or not, it's actually coincidence. But not only that, you look at who the CEO of Presearch is, and Colin Pape, and I mean, you know, I'm extremely proud to call him a friend. I'm fortunate enough to have the small amount of correspondence with him that I do, and you know, what a great anarchist he is, and everything that he's doing to fight big technocracy and Google and stuff. So you know, shout out to Colin Pape. And if you guys don't know him, he's one of the most humble and generous and friendly people that you'll ever meet. And because of him, Agorist Nexus, you know, without Presearch, Agorist Nexus wouldn't be what it is today. So we wouldn't be like dead in the water, but we wouldn't be doing, nearly as good. So yeah, want to put that out there, and thank you so much, Colin. So
yeah, it was a great episode. If you guys haven't heard it, where we had him on, and we talked to him a lot off air too. And I don't remember what all made it in the episode, but yeah, just the conversations we had and the stories he was telling. Like, yeah, man, he's on the same page as us. Like philosophically, like I definitely truly believe that. So as much as I can about anybody, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So
right.
This kind of goes into Joe. Joe Rogan's obviously a big name nowadays. He used to just be that Fear Factor guy, but this has been like a huge headline a couple weeks ago, and of course, all these news medias are. This is from Media Matters for America. Of course, all of these media outlets are like, "Oh, Joe Rogan's fear mongering," and the title is Joe Rogan fear mongers that vaccine passports will lead to a social credit system similar to what they have in China.
Yeah, and just this whole like page. Like I was reading a lot of the stuff on here, and Joe Rogan's been beaten up a lot over the last 6 months or so, and I think it's just because he's like the I think I read something like 11 million listens per episode, which is like 4 times the amount of like the cable news shows. So it's like, I think because he's so big, as when people listen to him, people get so outraged because they're like, no, we're supposed to be the information gatekeepers, but there's been a lot of instances where he says something and they fly off the fucking handle about it. I was seeing somebody had a thing where they're like, oh yeah, here's the image that like Joe Rogan posted on his thing, and then here's the one that CNN put out, and it looks like they altered the image to make him look sicker when he had COVID. And that's just something I saw. I haven't done the research to see if that's actually the case, but I believe it. But yeah, this site in particular has a ton of really ridiculous stuff about Rogan. Like they just really have a bug up their ass for him. But yeah, so there's a few articles on here, and it's funny because if you look at like what they say, like Joe Rogan falsely said that that it might not be worth it to get the vaccine if you're only 21, and I'm like, well, that's kind of like an opinion to say falsely, and they had a link, so I click on it, and it, in fairness, it took it to something sort of related, but it was an opinion piece from the Associated Press. And I'm like, well, this is hardly a factual source either, So, yeah, it's crummy reporting, but it is interesting that somebody who so many people listen to is saying this kind of stuff. Do you listen to Rogan at all?
I think I've only seen I've only seen a couple episodes. I've seen that Edward Norton one. Of course, you've got to watch. No, yeah, I've seen the Norton one, the Snowden, Edward Snowden ones.
Okay. So very different people, but curious.
Yeah, well, I've seen both of them, and
okay,
and you have to watch the Elon Musk ones. So I've only seen those. So
okay.
But yeah, they're solid. The thing about Rogan is like he's not an anarchist. I usually only listen to like anarchist voices because they're so much more interesting and true.
You're just on the same page with them.
Yeah, and they understand like why they're saying stuff. They don't just like say something because a thought like entered their head. They're saying it maybe because a thought entered their head, but they've got something behind what they're saying too, and then they put like their philosophical spin on it. So, that's why I listen to anarchists over pretty much anybody else because they're just, yeah, like you said, on the same page, and they're just so much more interesting to me. So.
Yeah, I definitely the couple that I listen to that are like comedy podcasts or like some cryptid podcasts that they're not anarchists, and it's like those are the most part. But you notice it when they say something. It's like, oh, like I'd never hear that on one of my never hear that opinion on one of my anarchist podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything that's like politics or news related, oh yeah, gotta be
Well,
Gotta be libertarian.
that's the thing about
adjacent,
Rogan is that a lot of times that's the thing about Rogan is that a lot of times he's like philosophically lost and I don't know. I just
But I am glad that many like normies listen to him, because I think he's good enough compared to a lot of other content out there.
Yeah,
he's definitely better. He's definitely better than them watching Rachel Maddow or some shit. Whatever the competition is.
Yeah, whatever it may be. So yeah, well, I think we're pretty much done with Rogan. Do you want to touch on this other one by the CBC? I think it's Canada Broadcast Center or something. Federal public servants, RCMP, and air and rail travelers must be vaccinated by month's end, Trudeau says. All would-be travelers must be fully vaccinated by October 30th to board planes, trains, or marine vessels. So that's pretty much every single trains, planes, and marine that's everything except for cars, I think. I'm pretty sure you won't even be able to public. Yeah, and I don't even think you'll be able to cross into different provinces if you're not vaccinated eventually.
Some provinces do have like vaccine mandates or requirements. So yeah, I think. Well, I mean, shoot, if there's what, like 5 provinces. Sorry, Canada, my geography sucks. I'll say there's like 5 provinces, and if they're in the right order, only 2 of them need to have a mandate to really make it to where you can't travel from one to the other. The pattern ends up right. So,
well, I mean, how often do you go to like the Yukon? So
I'm a Saskatchewan man through and through, dude.
Yeah. So yeah.
Now, there's a couple interesting notes I found in here. Is what's kind of funny is it doesn't look like it's going to be this way for it will be a mandate for passengers, but I'm just saying what I'm about to say. It looks like for the employees, they don't have to show proof. They just have to say they're vaccinated, but they can be audited and forced to show proof at any time. So take that for whatever it means, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, it does seem like it's more like public. So like if you own a fucking John boat, it's not like the same thing. Like you're going to have to do the vax. But I mean, basically they're looking at like 98% of Canadians, I think, are already like vaccinated or something, or at least one shot. So, don't live in Canada. I don't know. It sucks.
Yeah.
I like a lot of Canadians. Colin's Canadian. Shit.
Yeah. Probably a good time to get out of Canada while you still can. So just putting that out there. You may not want to be stuck in a complete communist hellhole that pretty much owns you. So pretty interesting article. It looks like and it's not only Canada. I think Canada and Australia are kind of test beds for what we're going to see, or for what the elites who pretty much control all governments around the world want. And what they seem to want is, complete lockdown, restriction of travel, complete government control, stuff like that. And that's going to lead us to our next article, unless there's something else you wanted to touch on. And this article just came out today too. We're recording October 6th. So yeah, a lot of these articles just came out today. This just came out, and then the U.S. government ordering Google to provide user search data just came out today. So it's super relevant stuff.
As we were prepping.
Yeah, as we were prepping.
We got to talk about this. Just a couple things on this. One, they have the same jargon of it's not coercion. It's just people are resistant. So we're just incentivizing them to get it. It's like, okay, it's still kind of coercion. I don't know. I thought there was one other thing. Oh yeah. There's some like unions, like federal employee unions, who are like opposed to this. But it's Canada. They're going to do it. So whatever. So there are some people fighting it, I guess. But one of the few times I side with unions. But yeah, that's it. Once again, get out of Canada.
Yeah, I mean, there is a small amount of hope. I mean, you see I do see like this guy named Chris Guy. I don't think that's his real name, but I've seen him like make a ruckus and talk about no compliance. And yeah, I mean, as agorists, we wouldn't want to, we're not going to comply with anything the government tells us. We're going to do exactly what's in our best interest that doesn't hurt other people. Aggressively, anyways. We will defend ourselves. We will defend ourselves. So, but yeah, this leads us to another Canada article about internment camps, and we thought this was relevant because internment this is from Freedom Wire, so they're a little bit better than they're definitely better than like these other mainstream articles. But and the article is Canada's internment camps. Prime Minister Trudeau orders COVID positive Canadians to quarantine in government facilities, which is like beyond Orwellian. And I mean, what can they do and what will they do with these camps later on, right? Like, what if they say you test positive for COVID when you really don't? There have been instances where the PCR tests have not been accurate and have been given false positives. That's been, the case and very factual. So even the CDC came out, and I'll have to find a source for it. But even the CDC came out at one point in time and said that, yeah, PCR tests are do give out false positives. So, if they really wanted to throw you in a concentration camp, all they would have to do is say, yeah, you test positive for XYZ. It came out positive. So yeah, you're going into this camp. Hope you come out later on. Bye. And yeah, so it's very scary times, to say the least. So
yeah, I think it was back in like Endgame 2. We were talking about this. I think that was the one, and the video, excuse me, of them in like Parliament, like talking about this, and it's like that was still conspiracy theory talk, back then. So, but they give it a classy name. I'm not sure what they're calling them in Canada. What they're calling them in Australia is pretty damn funny. Yeah, there's this article that you were talking about, and yeah, they got like somebody who went there and talking about their experience, and food was cold and inedible and no utensils. The room was dirty and, shit like that. And it's just like, man, like, I think there is some aspect to, government's incompetent, right? Of course, there's the evil aspect too. And I don't want to, but like, I don't know, man. Like, it's like basically a simple hotel service. Like they're trying to run here and they can't even fucking do that. Like, at least like, okay, if they're putting you in these so-called camps, you think they can like at least manage to get the people food, and like having like a room and like, it'd be like barely acceptable at least, but it just seems like a lot of really bad experiences when people go through these places, or it's really expensive or something. And it's just like, I don't know, man, they just suck. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's government run healthcare too. So I mean, government controls the healthcare system. So if the government says, okay, healthcare system, we need to implement this kind of testing, and the testing is, we need to implement this kind of testing for XYZ virus or whatever, and the testing is giving out false positives on purpose to whoever they deem, should be in these camps.
They certainly could.
They've got the power, and they definitely could, and they've definitely had false positives on the PCR test, and they definitely had people in quote quarantine camps unquote for test positives. So there have been Canadians where they're like, I feel fine, I don't feel like I've got COVID, but unfortunately I've got to go to this quarantine hotel or quarantine facility. So how many aspects of our lives do we want government to control? Because it just snowballs super quickly if you give them control over food, healthcare, anything else. It just quickly turns into this disaster. So, but that's pretty much all I've got on this article, unless there's something else you wanted to cover it. They do cover Canada's healthcare is completely government and all that stuff. It's a pretty good article, but yeah, we'll leave it there. And
hey guys, quick pause here to tell you about our sponsor, Devault Cryptocurrency. Ticker symbol DVT is a low cap coin with a market cap around 900,000. So there could be room for opportunity here. Not financial advice, but we really like this project.
Yeah, the Devault core wallet is one of the best I've ever seen. Very user friendly, super easy to use with cold staking rewards. So it's like getting interest. They're working on privacy with Terraform, also DeFi to decentralize and replace financial institutions.
So go ahead and check them out over at devault.cc and get you a Devault core wallet today. Also, be sure to check out the show notes to find exchanges that they are traded on. With that said, let's get back to the show. We get a similar one next. It's the Australian version, and this one, the person went to their camp and was talking about it. I guess they were able to bring some food. Okay, so they were flying in from Moscow, so they had to quarantine this center. And what? Oh yeah, this is the funny one. See, what are they called? It's like I don't know. I'll get to it. It's in here somewhere. But basically, yeah. I mean, these are real basic. I mean, honestly, it sounds a lot nicer than the Canadian ones. They actually get like food once a day and stuff, like delivered to the room. But yeah, let's see. Random early morning temperature checks and coronavirus tests. Police and soldiers on patrol make sure people are wearing masks if they're outside of their room at the times they're allowed off their stoop. Let's see, a 39-page booklet of rules and procedures. And some of the stuff is like, I mean, it's funny, we were talking about this beforehand, and I was like, man, it's like a prison. And you're like, no, it is a prison. Oh, yeah, duh. But no alcohol, no care parcels, no restaurant deliveries, no balls. I don't know what they're referring. I don't know what it means for playing, or I don't know. No sunbathing, no metal silverware, no scissors or sharp implements, no cooking in the kettle, no putting food waste in the hand basin, no electrical appliances, no stepping off your balcony except for garbage disposal, and 3 allotted weekly laundry spots. No skateboards or inline skates, swimming, or playing in the drains when it rains. No noise after 9:30. So some of those are silly. Some of those make no sense from like a health standpoint, like sunbathing or, sharp implements. Like, why couldn't you get restaurant deliveries? Like, why couldn't you order food if you wanted from a restaurant? I don't know. Maybe they don't want people coming on there who, okay, I don't know. You can make an argument for that. But still, it's a lot of silly stuff and very authoritarian, very kind of cross between school or public school and jail, which obviously have a lot of Venn diagrammy overlaps. So yeah, I don't know. Regular government bullshit. Don't go to Australia either. That'd be another, just like Canada. That's my advice.
I think we have to look at reality and say, okay, there are instances where government forces you into camps, and pretty much tells you that you cannot do anything. And the conditions might be a little bit better than prison right now. And I mean, and this is a reality that we have to live with. I mean, we always condemned the Nazi camps or the Japanese internment camps in America. But now we have to look at Canada and Australia. And I don't even know if there's anywhere else that has camps, but we have to look at these places and say, hey, is this really like a world that we want to live in? Where the government can force you into a camp because they say you need to be. And my answer is no. I mean, it's, I stand for freedom, and if somebody's sick, I believe that they, if I've got this like super deadly disease, I'm going to stay home. Like when I got the flu or something, I feel so bad that I don't go out. I try to get rest and I try to take my vitamins, and I don't go outside. And, I don't really think that we have to be treated as children and forced into camps to be able to deal with, sickness, disease, or viruses. I think it's very Nazi-like. And, everyone says, oh, well, it's a lazy comparison. You're just lazy if you compare things to Nazis. It's like, well, there are camps that people are being forced into. So, I mean, I think
similarities.
I think that we're getting to the, I think that we're getting to the point where we not only can say, hey, like this is very Nazi-like, but I think we're getting to the point where we have to say that. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Man, I fucked myself up a little bit listening to you there. I just really was just going through and just realizing how much all of this is the same, like public school. I mean, you were just describing, like camps or prison or being forced into a government thing. And yeah, that's public school. And, a lot of us went through a dozen years of that shit, at least, shitty food, the other inmates that were awful that you shouldn't have had to be forced to hang out with, the authoritarian patrols, the teachers and administrators. Yeah, man, it's amazing that,
well, now they've got security guards.
So normal.
Now they've got like security guards,
yeah, resource officers,
and like all this stuff, dude. It's like,
yeah, man,
just slowly making it more like a prison.
I for whatever reason, I looked into like the history of like school shootings a while back. And I'm sorry if I talked about this in here before, but like what was kind of interesting was all the school shootings, like the first like 100 years of public schooling being a thing, were parents like going to school and like blowing the teacher's head off for like hitting their kid. But and when you learn the history of public school and that, like, yeah, the first like public schools, they were the children were marched there under armed militia, because it's the only way you could get them to go. And they were just trying to like, break them of being Catholic or break them of being Jewish or whatever, and it's like, yeah, it really wasn't pretty, but it's like, man, you get a generation or two in and then it just becomes so normal. Of course you send your kids off to school. And what else? Of course, that's just what you do. And the thought of even not sending your kids off to public school is like, oh my God, they're going to turn out to be these retarded monsters. And it's, I don't know, man, it's disturbing. It really is. And sorry, that just sort of came out of nowhere with talking about all this shit, man. But yeah, it's just the government way. It's just the status way. And you're comparing it to Nazis. Well, where do we get public schooling? It's fucking Prussian, and I know Prussians weren't Nazis and blah blah blah. But I mean, it was a few decades later. And it'll be similar. But yeah, man, it's I don't think it's unfair to make those comparisons in a lot of instances. And we've got things like the documentation stuff that's going on now. The what is it? The where they can do the vaccinations that leave the infrared tattoo on you. Papers, please. All that stuff. The camps. There's just too many things that are that similar. And then. People paint Nazis. Oh God, this is terrible. People paint Nazis as being like the worst thing in the world. And Nazis are terrible, but of course, there's the other regimes that have killed way more people. Than half the shit the Nazis did, they learned from the U.S. And then what we got all their scientists and everything afterwards. So it's like
Operation
Paperclip. They were talking about that on Use Guys and that podcast, friends of the show. We'll listen to them. But they were talking about this a week or two ago, and it was a really good conversation. And they're like, "Oh man, was it wrong of you to bring them over here?" And I'm just, man, they're weapons builders. I mean, if you're working for a state, you're working for a state. What's the fucking difference? I don't think that. Okay, I guess. Are we going to say that Nazi, scientists were more evil than the scientists that work on the Manhattan Project? Who developed the fucking A-bomb, for crying out loud? I don't know. I mean, maybe on a personal level, per scientist, what were their personal beliefs, maybe, but it's
or were they
shit.
Or maybe a particular scientist was maybe doing invasive studies on people, experiments that would kill people.
And that's a whole nother.
They would
fucked up.
They would experiment on twins to see how one would react and how it was.
Not Goebbels, Mengele. Yeah, that's some Mengele shit, dude. Yeah, that's fucked up. And yeah, that's the kind of thing. That's not even scientific. That's it's one thing. It's oh, you want to be a rocket scientist? Well, you're going to work for a fucking government, right? It's nowadays, maybe not the case, but it's you're going to work for a government, but it's if you're comfortable with, doing those kind of procedures on people, fuck you, and I've heard Werner Braun was a big, yay, Nazis, not just a rocket scientist. So, I don't know, but it's man, were they any worse than the people who developed the weapons for the United States? I don't know, probably not. I think the United States has probably killed more people than, with their weapons. So, I don't know. Wow. Sorry, we got a little off track there, but between Nazis and public school, man, that was a good chunk of shit.
Yeah, and public. To add to that, public schools probably condition you for prison. So
school to prison pipeline.
So we've got a clip of Trudeau that we want to play. So yeah, fire away.
We do.
Ready. Fire away if you're ready.
Sorry. Dad. Yeah, sorry. Hold on. That was on me. Hold on. I got it ready. It's here. All right.
Into account. Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and to help.
All right. So yeah, that's Trudeau.
And there's that word again, build back better. And when almost every single government official that you hear says build back better, it's you're all in cahoots. We know that you're all in cahoots. You're all going to say the same exact thing. and then he even says like Agenda 2030. So it's like you're definitely doing the bidding of the elites.
Whatever, Alex Jones, crazy conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. You're crazy.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead. I didn't mean to ruin your.
No, that's pretty much all I've got to say on that. But yeah,
oh man, it just tickles me, and cause fuck, man, I even got it like, and I'll totally admit this, probably like, I don't know, a few years ago when I first heard about 2030 and stuff like that, I'm like, it's like, I don't know, that's a little Alex Jonesy for me, right? But like, fuck, man, here we are. I mean, if that's a real video of him, which I assume it is, like, what the fuck can I say, dude? Like, it's a fucking, it's not just a conspiracy theory, and even among the ranks of conspiracy theories, it's not even like, one of the crazy out there ones. Like, fucking, it's their stated thing. So, fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now on that note, we if you're not that familiar with 2030, which to be honest, I've listened to a lot of stuff about it, I've read a little bit about it, but I'm definitely not an extremely fluent scholar of it. But we had a couple points and stuff that we wanted to that we just wanted to touch on real quick, because we could do episodes on this, and maybe we will. I don't know.
Yeah, we could go on.
Maybe I'll dig in and we'll do some. Yeah.
We could probably create even more episodes than Endgame. I think we're on Endgame 8 right now, and this is the last Endgame that we're doing. We're finishing the series with this, so that's another reason why this episode is so long. But yeah, it's yeah.
We were trying to catch Fast and the Furious, but they're going to end up outdoing us with the sequels.
Yeah, we'll probably do some new stuff later on. But yeah,
obviously COVID isn't going to be over.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're going to start with we're going to do the introduction of Agenda 2030. That's on the actual United Nations website, and then we will go on to their stated goals. So yeah, the preamble to transforming our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace and larger freedom. We recognize that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. All countries and all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. Wow, will. We are resolved to free the human race from tyranny of poverty and want to heal and secure our planet. We are determined to take the bold, transformative steps which are urgently needed to shift the world onto a sustainable and resistant path. As we embark on this collective journey, we pledge that no one will be left behind. That's pretty much impossible, but these to get back to the article here, the 17 development goals and 169 targets, which we are announcing today, demonstrate the scale and ambition of this new universal agenda. So it goes on to other stuff, but we just wanted to read that part of the introduction. And we're not going to go over all 169 targets, but we do want to go over the 17 goals that they have real fast. So you want to start off with goal 1, Dak?
Yeah, I can do that. I want to say I didn't even really notice it when I first read that preamble, but you emphasized the word will. And I was like, wow, that's actually kind of big. You know, they're not like, oh, if people decide to adopt it or whatever.
Yeah, it's
you
like,
know,
no,
just
they will. Yeah.
You know, yeah. Which it's like, oh, we will make them, or like, no, they're already on board. We got this. Anyhow, okay.
It's like that
So,
George Bush. Have you heard that George H.W. Bush, the first George Bush president? That's like when he said he's got like a famous New World Order quote that he says. He says something like, "When this New World Order comes into play,
yeah,
and it will be successful, and it will be," or something. And it's like when he said that, I was like, "Holy shit!" And I think I first heard him say that in I first saw that video clip in like 2007, and yeah, that's when I was like, what's really going down? What is this New World Order that all these like high positioned people keep talking about? But
they use a cut of him saying that it's gonna bug me now in some song, probably like a Cottonmouth Kings or Corporate Avenger song or something. But yeah, this New World Order. Yeah, they use like a cut of him saying that. Oh man, who is it? It's gonna bug me now. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I think that's the first place I ever heard that. It was in some stoner music. Shit, yeah. It's actually Cottonmouth Kings, the first place I ever heard the term taxation is theft or taxes are stealing. First time I ever heard that. Yeah. So, go them.
Oh wow, they kind of red pilled you, huh?
I mean, a little bit. It was funny at the time. I was a little younger, and I was like, I don't know. Is it really theft? I remember some of their music videos are holding up signs that says taxation is theft, and they have a song where they say at the end, they say anarchy through capitalism. And it didn't make sense to me when I was younger until like I, learned what anarcho-capitalism was and, this and that. And I was like, holy shit, they were, they were kind of based, in a lot of ways, man. And I just didn't realize at the time. And going back once I became like anarchist, listening to a lot of the punk I used to listen to, a lot of it's trash, not like good, philosophy or whatever. But they're, like Pennywise actually had like some good shit. And I was like, oh fuck, like that's good anarchy, not like fucking the Ramones now. We're like, vote for Hillary Clinton. Fuck you. Anyhow, so sustainable development goals. Goal number 1. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. Totally reasonable goal. Definitely. Larger question like poverty and relativity and all. Anyhow, but yeah, it's just silly. All its forms everywhere. Goal 2: end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. End hunger is a tough one. Promote whatever you want with your own money. That's cool. Goal 3.
It's kind of crazy how in goal 2, achieve food security, that Bill Gates and Bill Gates' father was a known eugenicist, by the way. And worked with Planned Parenthood to abort babies. So he's probably definitely not keen on population, which he's kind of mentioned in TED Talks. But anyways,
that's how they're going to end hunger. If you kill 90% of the people,
yeah, right.
There's plenty of food. So,
and Gates has been, and we've covered this in previous Endgame episodes where he's bought up, I think over 50% of all farmland in the U.S. So yeah, that makes me feel real safe about food security, for sure. But yeah.
And I love sustainable agriculture. It's what I do. But when I hear them talking about it, it terrifies me because to me, that's like, oh yeah, you're going to eat crickets and laboratory grown meat. And like, that's what I mean by sustainable agriculture. And again, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with people eating crickets. I actually think a lot of that's kind of interesting, and raising them and everything. I actually do think it's very interesting. Yeah, but like, no, like you're not going to say you're not going to eat beef. We're going to make it illegal, but instead you got crickets. Like no, that ain't going to fly.
Yeah, and Bill Gates has a company that I forget which company it is, but they're the ones that are making the Impossible meat or whatever. I think it's Impossible meat or.
Oh, it's gross.
or like I can't believe it's not meat or something. I don't know.
If somebody does not have a fucking fake meat company called I can't believe it's not meat,
they should do it.
Out.
Yeah.
It's probably trademarked or some bullshit. By I can't believe it's not butter. It's probably too similar or something. I fucking hate IP bullshit.
But yeah, it'd definitely be a good marketing.
Yeah, I can't believe it's not meat. I might try that one. If I was going to try one, just because I've never tried it. If I was just going to try one, I would try that. I can't believe it's not meat. Just to throw them a couple bucks. I'll buy your burrito or fake chicken or whatever the fuck it is.
I'm buying the domain to that now. I can't believe it's not meat. I'm just going to buy it just to see if somebody asks me for it later. But
hold on.
But anyways, I think we're getting carried away with I can't believe it's not meat. But Go on with goal. Okay. Number whatever you're.
We're up to 3. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Okay, another impossible goal. But I like their gusto, or at least I like it more if they were again planning to with their own resources. Not using the government's UN. Yeah, it's not forced and it's not stolen money, then fuck yeah, these are all great goals, honestly. Ensure inclusive and equitable Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all.
You mispronounced indoctrination there. So
yeah.
And this is goal number 4, by the way.
Yeah, goal number 4, yeah. Goal number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. All right. I think if there's equality, then
they're doing real good with the
trans in there, but
the trans women just killing women's sports. But
fuck. That is one of those. It's like whatever rules a thing wants to adopt, that's fine, but it's like that's just ridiculous, dude. Like, I don't know.
Hey, don't be transphobic, Dad. All right?
I'm certainly not. They want to compete in the whatever. Never mind. Sorry, I'm gonna stop. Goal 6: ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Again, great goal on a voluntary basis. I think,
and they've been doing absolutely horrible on that. At least the U.S. government has. I mean, if you want to talk about fluoride in the water. It's good for teeth. Well, studies on rat shows that that fluoride's actually not good for teeth either. But
and if it were, you don't drink it; you spit it out. Like, is that what you do with the dentist?
Yeah, exactly.
To think that a mild amount of it passing over your teeth is enough, then no, I don't buy that shit. Or the amount I'd have to put in would be terrible. And again, there's for suitable, water, good clean water and, proper bathrooms and stuff is a noble cause. And there are a lot of really good private organizations that do a lot of really great work there. And if you're looking for a charity to support, a lot of those, in my opinion, it's really noble, but again, that's something that's, private, done well. And government sucks at it. Flint, Michigan, et cetera, et cetera. Goal 7, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. I don't know. I want my own personal thorium reactor personally, but
translation. Translation.
You get power when the wind blows.
Yeah. Translation: you will follow all climate change directives. Goal number 8.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. Number 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Pay to dig holes and fill them in. I don't fucking know. Goal 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. That's what the free market's for. Goal 10.
Yeah,
inequality,
and they've done a horrible job so far. So,
reduce inequality within and among countries. I think we've already made this joke. Just make everybody poor, and then we're all equal.
Yeah, that was my. I think that. Yeah, actually, we both came up with that. But
all right. Well, as long as we both get credit.
Yeah.
Goal 11. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Again, noble cause, but you know, I don't want it from you. Goal 12.
Smart cities.
Sustainable.
Smart cities.
Yeah. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. That one is extra creepy all around, and it's like production isn't as creepy as consumption. You know, that's more controlling what you consume. Obviously, everybody wants more sustainable production patterns, you know, but of course, not the way that they intend to do it, whatever that may be.
Consumption. What, you're going to control my consumption? What? Like, what are you saying? We might want to read some bullet points on this one. I don't know. You see anything that kind of pops out at you? Kind of skimming through it real fast.
Down below, I see it's like expanded. Interesting. Okay. What should we say? It's goal 12.
12B?
Yeah,
12B is pretty creepy. Develop and implement tools to monitor sustainable development impacts for sustainable tourism that creates jobs and promotes local culture and products. Like, how are you going to develop and implement tools to monitor this? And then like rationalize inefficient fossil fuel subsidies that encourage wasteful consumption. Like you're going to have to, monitor and crack down on that, and removing all market distortions in accordance with national circumstances, and including by restructuring taxation and phasing out those harmful subsidies. So basically, we're just going to phase out those harmful subsidies and tax you more. That's great. The U.S. isn't taxed quite enough yet. Even though if you add up all the tax, I think it's over 60% of. This is including like sales tax and death tax. And,
I think it's like 40 to 60% depending on your bracket.
Yeah.
And they mentioned in there about the power thing too, the fossil fuels going to help poor countries, because we don't want them to be subjected to this pollution and stuff. But and of course, I'm not the biggest fan of fossil fuels, but you have to recognize the fact that we wouldn't be where we were without them, and it's kind of a necessary step for developing, I don't know what's the right word here, economies, countries, areas, whatever, to go through. You can't get to, if we never had the gross coal-driven industrial revolution, we wouldn't have, or at least in likelihood, wouldn't have the better technology we have now that makes that old stuff obsolete. You kind of got to go through that phase. So, when you do something like you say, we're just going to get rid of fossil fuels, a lot of times the people who are hurt most by that are the poor countries, poor people. We have options other than that in the U.S. And, a lot of places in the world, but a lot of places they don't, so, it's just another one of the, backwards things. Goal number 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Okay. So that's basically Green New Deal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's, anything to do with climate change, they're really going to crack down on because, we've got to save the planet. But I think the planet will be here longer than we will be. But goal number 14.
Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. So they're just not going to let us fish it.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do anything on the ocean probably. And goal number 15.
Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. Noble goal. I implore all of that, just not from you people. Again, lots of really cool. We can have some fun with that one, but not today. And again,
government has been and it doesn't matter if it's the Chinese government or the U.S. government. they have been like devastating to they have just devastated us with pollution. So
yeah, and
I don't want
nothing else. Just public ownership is not. Things don't get taken care of properly, and this also goes to when you put these environmental regulations in like that, they mostly impact poor people. So
and we could probably go on that subject all day, but
I could do hours.
Yeah, I know you could. That's why I'm like, let's move on.
Get them past this. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. Provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. That one's a mouthful. So, I don't know, more bullshit. Goal 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. I don't know what that means. The means of implementation is, okay, so that means like more guns and jackbooted thugs to enforce this shit? Is that what that means?
Yeah, probably. Okay. And there's several like major bullet points that are super scary on number 17, which frighten the shit out of me, like finance, strengthen domestic resource mobilization, to improve domestic capacity for tax, revenue collection, super scary shit on finance. Yeah, technology, like basically taking over all technology and controlling technological innovation, capacity building, trade.
Trade's interesting because it will significantly increase the exports of developing countries, in particular the view on doubling least developed, blah, blah, blah. So it's almost like, so completely exploit them for their resources?
Yeah, pretty much. Systematic. Sorry, my dog, guys. I don't know when I'll stop, but systematic. Boy. Yeah, pistol boy. Systematic issues. There's a lot there. You guys can definitely take a look at that. What does SDG stand for? I see SDG here quite a bit. Do you know what that stands for? We should probably look it up.
No, I actually noticed that earlier and was wondering that myself.
Let me look at it first real quick.
I'll vamp for a second. More SDGs. And STIs. Oh, that's sexually transmitted infection. I know that one. Although I don't think that's what they mean here.
Oh, sustainable development goals. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And Trudeau actually mentions that in the speech we just played for you guys. So in that little, 13-second clip or whatnot. So he's like super on board with this. And I think the funniest thing about this is like, we want to make everybody equal and reduce inequality within and among countries. It's like we want everybody to be equally poor and stuff. So that we had a good laugh before the show on that one. So, but yeah, and the last global point or the last couple things are what was it? The really long one was systematic issues, which is like private business activity, just like everything. It's just amazing how much stuff there is here. We could probably do like 20 episodes just on 2030. We might have to be honest.
Yeah, we're at least going to have to do one. I'm going to have to read this whole thing now, so not right now, obviously, but Then
there's the national. After systematic issues, there's the national level. We encourage all members of state to develop as soon as practical, ambitious national responses to overall implementation of this agenda. So, like, we want all nations to basically implement this agenda. These can support transitions of the SDGs, sustainable development, growth, or whatever, and build an existing planning instruments such as national development, sustainable development strategies as appropriate. What's appropriate? I don't know. Then you've got regional levels and global level. And translation for global level is basically New World Order. Definitely take a look at Agenda 2030. We'll have, again, all of these articles in the show notes, but I think we should continue on with the next article. So, what do we got, Dag?
All right. So next, this is interesting, but there's not a ton here, I think. But the carbon credit cards, and MasterCard doing a thing called Do Economy, where it's like a credit card that, like your purchases have like carbon ratings or something based on how much carbon, they use. And so you have like an allotment, and you, if you hit it, you don't get to make the purchases. And like, I can't find anything about anybody like trying to like forcibly implement this. I don't know if it's just like a thing to get attention, or, seem like they're doing good shit for the environment or not really doing anything. But a couple funny things about this is like, hey, like if somebody wants to set this up and use this as a way of monitoring themselves, that's fine, I guess. But the credit card case seems kind of silly. I figured you could just get like an app or something that would do that, and you could, control yourself. But like, it really promotes just living off of a credit card, first off, because aren't like typically for most people like credit cards for like emergencies, right? So like, you're buying most of your stuff with like cash or whatever, debit card anyhow. So it's like, like when would this even come into play? And then it's like, if you are just living off of the credit card, what happens when there is an emergency? And it's like, it's not even like you're maxed out. It's just like, oh no, there's a situation, and my family member's in a hospital and I can't put gas in the car because gas uses a lot of carbon, and it's not gonna let you buy any more gasoline this month. So you can't get to the fucking hospital where your loved one's dying or something. There's sorry, I shouldn't be laughing about that. I could have picked a less morbid example, or what? Okay, you can't buy lumber after a storm to fix your house. How about that? Lumber uses carbon. It fucking is carbon. It's literally carbon. So, so that's just that. But it just sort of goes along with our theme for tonight too, of them monitoring a lot of shit that you're doing and making decisions about your life with it based on credit, social credit, or what have you. And it is also worth noting that this sort of first started popping up in like 2019, but there have been several new articles about it in the last month or so, and they don't go into much more detail or anything. There's not much to them. They're pretty short, but it's popped up again recently. So just with the whole universal credit system. Oh, is that a thing?
And MasterCard, dude.
Yeah.
And MasterCard wants to, like, that's huge. Like, you're talking about MasterCard wants to do something like this. That's huge. So
yeah. I can see it being a marketing bullshit thing, though. Like when when the fucking fracking company paints one of their drill heads pink for breast cancer, it's like they don't give a fuck about breast cancer. Just like MasterCard doesn't give a fuck about global warming, But it could be another method of control if this is something that people, start to notice. I couldn't find it for this, but I thought I saw something where some people like the IMF was like, oh, it's a good idea, but I can't back that up. Like you said, I've read a lot of shit today.
Oh, yeah. We've gone through like several articles today, guys. So please forgive us.
Several versions of each.
Yeah, several versions of each. But yeah, I think that this article is definitely worth mentioning nonetheless. And so we still have a couple things here. We should probably get on to the next one.
This next one's a little bit of a big one. It's called Internet of Bodies, and there's a few articles on it. And the ones that I actually am going off of on this for the most part is one from the World Economic Forum, right? Yeah, the World Economic Forum, and then another one from the RAND Corporation. So they're both kind of big groups that are kind of on board with this stuff. And that's like, I don't trust them, but that's kind of why I look at their shit on these kind of topics, because you get to see what they're saying, and then you kind of try to dissect it, like what they mean. But you also get to see what they're just outright saying. So it's really easy when people call you a conspiracy theorist to say, no, look, this is what they're fucking saying, you know. But basically, I'm sure you've heard of the Internet of Things, how just everything is a smart whatever and everything's connected, and you know, there's a lot of creepiness that goes along with it. I will say this: if just like with a lot of the creepiness that goes along with internet stuff, if it wasn't for government, like I wouldn't care as much. Like a company collecting data for me just so they can more accurately show me advertisements they're going to show me anyway, but it might be for something that I actually want, doesn't bother me as much as, you know, the government knowing everything I'm doing, you know, online, right? So it's you know, it's kind of like that for this too. So basically, it's a lot of ways of like linking together like medical information and different ways of gathering said data. So one of the things, and this is kind of like an Internet of Things, but it's kind of getting into the Internet of Bodies zone, is like the smartwatches or the fitness trackers, you know, because it is, you know, kind of like medical, you know, data, and the data is getting you know, is getting used by a lot of people, and you may or may not know who or what it is. So you know, what does that mean? Like, well, you know, you could, you know, if you want to argue that health data should be private, then that's a thing. There's kind of some interesting, I think it's this Rand Corporation article, if I'm not mistaken. They talk about, or maybe not, maybe it's anyhow, one of those. They say, well, you know, the HIPAA, you know, the privacy thing started like 96. That's like directly medical stuff, but we start getting this stuff that's like apps and like your jogging app, right? That's not, jogging data isn't necessarily medical, but you could infer a lot of medical stuff from it. You know, I heard somewhere that like there was like instances of like women who didn't know they were pregnant getting ads for like baby stuff just because their shopping habits, like the algorithm picked up that they were pregnant, but like they didn't even know they were pregnant yet. I don't have that in an article here. It's just something I've heard, but you know, shit like that, you know, like that gets to be like medical, you know, and I don't, you know, again, like, I don't know what we consider medical or what, you know, how private certain medical things should be. I mean, from like, let's say a health insurance company or something, I don't know. They probably want to know health information about their patient. I don't
should probably be consensual nonetheless, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You know, then that's what I'm saying. It shouldn't be like ill-gotten, you know. But you know, to think that they wouldn't use knowledge they come across in a non-shitty way, you know, whatever, to think that some companies wouldn't be shitty about it or do it in non-consensual ways, yeah, probably, you know.
Or they could do it in a positive way, like, hey, like, you've been doing a lot of this, like, what do you think about this, you know? Like,
exactly.
Hey, you've been eating a lot of Cheetos, like, you know,
if you
want to exercise by it, kind of
yeah.
you know?
Hey, if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to fear, dude. You know, if you're living a healthy lifestyle, what's the fucking problem, right? And then actually, well, one thing that's kind of interesting on all these notes, there's a company, I don't remember the name of the company, and they don't pay me to plug them anyhow. So, but there's a company where it's like you voluntarily submit like your data. From whatever, and it could be like from your fitness tracker, and they pay you like a cut of what they get by selling the data, but you get to choose what you give up and shit. And like, I think that's a great fucking business model because you know, they're selling your shit anyhow, so you may as well get paid for it. It's like voluntary, and also on the other side of things, from like a market standpoint, it's better data because it's voluntary. So the businesses want to buy that data as opposed to like the sneakily gotten data, because it's better data because people are voluntarily giving it up. So like, I just think that's really interesting. I haven't signed up with them or
it's still super. I mean, in my opinion, it's still super creepy because of the day and age we live in, and how government's like controlling and taking all information. But yeah, in a perfectly free market
standpoint, it's a way to get around some of the gripes. Because a lot of people, I mean, you and me are obviously a lot more secretive about our general selves than most people, you know, and most people enjoy free services that they get solely because they're getting data mined, right? That's why shit's free. So it's like, I guess if you just given in to Google, which a lot of people have, they're like, yep, it's everything I have is Google, everything works, it's great, I love it, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I get that, you know, but if you've already given yourself up to Google, shit, why the hell not do it this way and at least get paid for it? Because Google ain't paying you, So at least give up your data to something like that and get paid for it, but at any rate, so that's some concerns with this is like data and privacy and everything, and I'll say this too, from a medical standpoint, I could see tons of benefit of having just streams of like data that you normally would have to be in like laboratory settings, which are never realistic settings, So I could see a lot of advantages to medical science with a lot of this Internet of Bodies stuff, But again, it comes down to as long as it's voluntary and when we don't have an oppressive authoritarian government that's going to use it for things we don't want it to, I can see this being helpful and very beneficial to humanity, but
and that oppressive authoritarian government is like constantly looming over our heads. So even if it is voluntary, we might want to consider not doing it. Just because of the day and age that we're living in, unfortunately.
So, and when we say day and age, we're not being like hyperbolic. Like if you look in these articles, they say in there because of, like this could help with COVID-19. But they're talking about like developing all these things. I'm like, how long do you think this thing's supposed to be going on? Unless you're planning for it to go on forever, or even if you're not, you're now priming people to go, oh yeah, I can see why this would be helpful. So yeah, maybe this is a good thing. You're priming them to just accept it, even if COVID isn't around. So there's day and age, the times we live in. All right, let's take a quick second to shout out Agorist Acres Seeds. AgoristAcres.com stocks a variety of seeds for your garden or homestead. They also have really cool packaging instead of those silly paper envelopes.
Buy seeds with crypto, support the counter economy, and become self-sustaining today. Agorist Acres offers fast shipping so you can get started right away.
Make sure you use code Nexus10 at the checkout for 10% off of your orders. Also, they will donate a portion of the sale to Agorist Nexus, helping to bring you all the great content you expect. And all right, let's get on with it. But yeah, interesting articles though.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, definitely want to mention a couple of things in this article. Like they talk about digital pills, which is like super creepy. The FDA approved the first digital pill. What the hell is a digital pill? Embedded sensors that record the medication was taken. Super creepy. Like they're recording if you're actually taking. Benefits, Yeah, I could. Oh, yeah, I could. But the FDA is recording whether you took a medication or not, which is just like even George Orwell. Even George Orwell didn't predict such Orwellian things, but the pill is successful at treating, certain mental disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar, depression.
That's one of their stated uses, so they can make sure the schizophrenic is taking their medication. The fucking app tells them.
Not to mention the FDA is probably like, and this is just me like going off on a rant because I've had 4 beers during this episode, but the FDA is probably like caused more schizophrenia than not, and more bipolar than not with all the other drugs and stuff that they've given out. Anyways, I don't have anything to back that up. I'm just talking on my ass. But if anybody can talk shit about the FDA, it's me, because I used to work in the medical field, and yeah, I know how bad, corrupt, and how expensive they make everything. So, anyways, to move on throughout the article, they talk about like ethical concerns and privacy and security risks. It's like, well, we already know you're going to give all this stuff to the government. I'm pretty sure that emotional sensors. Artificial intelligence software companies are developing systems that can detect and collect data on human emotions. Super creepy stuff. How policy could mitigate ethical concerns. What the hell does that even mean? Policymakers should consider regulating the terms and conditions under which Internet of Bodies technology can be used, which means like they'll use it however they want, and they'll want to do that anyways. They should also consider protections for vulnerable groups. That means like, how people call the cops and say, hey, like this like mental person is having issues, like can you do a checkup, and then the cops kill him, shit like that. Let's see, the Federal Trade Commission could play a larger role to ensure that internet of body marketing claims about improved well-being or specific health treatments are backed by appropriate evidence. They're just trying to legitimize themselves at that point. But obviously, I have no faith in Internet of Bodies technology that's going to be like tracked and traced by government. They'll probably eventually come out with. I mean, we've already talked about like them implanting sensors to make sure that you're taking your medicine, what they call digital pills. But I'm sure that they want to, they'll have like body tracking devices like they already do with like those running, sprinting armbands and stuff. But it will probably evolve into like chipping people and stuff like that. You have to get this chip, or else you're not considered a healthy human being, and will deny you health care. I think that that's probably where they might be going with it. But I don't know if you have anything. I can go off on a rant on it all day, but I don't know if you have anything on it, Dag, before you move on.
Yeah, there is actually a couple things. One, there was actually a case where a guy was suspected of arsoning his house, and he claimed it was an accident, and they actually pulled his pacemaker data so they could look at his heartbeat when the supposed event occurred, and they were trying to charge him with felony arson. He ended up dying before the case could be resolved. But he was old with a pacemaker. But yeah, so they have actually kind of used some stuff like this, which is, I mean, I don't know, man. It's not like it was a murder case. I think it's a little ridiculous, But yeah, so they have actually done some stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not even for murder. It's for like self arson. So like,
yeah, like he burned his own house down allegedly.
Creepy.
So, like,
just creepy to say the least. To say the least.
And then some another couple things. One, they talk about a productivity tracker where you can put it on someone's wrist. Like, let's say they work for Amazon. Amazon actually like developed it, but they haven't like built the thing yet. But so like if your hand's idle for too long, it'll like vibrate to remind you to get the fuck back to work. It can track where you are in the building, etc. So that was kind of.
Hey, you're not being a good enough slave. So.
Yeah, exactly. They talk about a DNA ancestry test in this article as well. And the article from the RAND Corporation is actually really good. I actually really like it. But they talk about the DNA ancestry test, and they're like, if, because of those, they can find out, your kids are born, and then they can't get health care because you took an ancestry test that shows that you had this like genetic problem, which in a free market wouldn't be like an issue for me. Like the companies that would be doing the insurance should, be able to know whatever, blah, blah, blah. But like, and we're talking about now in a place in time where the government might be taking a lot of, overlording decisions, over our health. And with the DNA test, they've like tried to like imprison people with it and stuff. So just a word of warning.
Yeah, in the day of corporations and government merging and becoming one, it's probably a good idea. Yeah, fascism, and turning into like communistic welfare states at the same time, which I think I've probably coined the word. I might be wrong, but I like to call it commo-fascism. I've got the first hashtag on Twitter for commo-fascism, I think. So yeah. But I think I've coined that word, commo-fascism. But in the day of
government-run healthcare, you don't want. And you don't want that shit to be out there.
Yeah, in this day and age, it's probably best to stay out of all of the company stuff, even if you think it might be beneficial somewhat, because eventually the government will just basically ask them to give it to, or actually the government will just eventually take it from them. So, yeah, just, again, the times. So
the times, and then finally, and we're not going to get into it, but I just had to say, look into it yourself, guys. Facial recognition technology is racist. Check it out.
Yeah. And this article, I don't know if we went over the exact cover, but it's from the Rand Corporation, and the article is "The Internet of Bodies Will Change Everything for Better or Worse." Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I really like that one. Definitely check that one out. So we moving on.
Moving on.
So I've had a few whiskeys too. So
Dag's not nearly. I've actually drinking with
good
Dag
podcasting mode.
Yeah, exactly. I've drinking with Dag in public, and he just keeps getting better and better as he drinks. So yeah, he probably hasn't drinking enough, guys.
I hit the line eventually, but I still got a little ways to go. So.
Yeah. You're not there yet.
Yeah, not yet. So we do a war with China now, or what?
Are we? Gotta ask the government on that one. But
why don't you start us off on this one?
Sure. Yeah, I'm probably not as good as Dag, so don't have too high of expectations here. But this article is from The Guardian, or as I like to put it, The Attacker, and it's from Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. So from yesterday, Taiwan, and look at the headline on this: Taiwan president warns of catastrophic consequences if island falls to China. And I think in previous Endgame episodes we've done, we've mentioned that like huge naval ships have, or maybe it was new in news episodes, I can't remember, that huge naval fleets with multiple countries have sailed through China's seas, showing like a show of force and intimidation. Which, if you know anything about Chinese culture, is like just not a good idea. But they like to tick for tack, and then they've got like this saving face. So like even if your boss is wrong, you need to like recognize, like even if your boss is saying wrong, you need to basically tell people that what he's saying is right, or else you could like dishonor him, or like make it so like you basically can't, especially people in authority, you can't basically say that they're wrong. So that's just kind of like part of the Chinese culture. And I've studied Chinese culture and Asian culture for many years. But anyways, what do you see? I mean, this article is pretty good, but what do you see that pops out at you here, Dak?
Pops out at me is that I don't know much about Asian geopolitics. Is Taiwan? Are they like? It's not quite like a Hong Kong, right? Are they their own country? Did they used to be part of China? I don't even know.
No. Okay. Well, that's why I'm here, guys. Just for this one topic. That's why I'm here. Okay, this is my sole purpose on the Agorist Nexus podcast is Asian political politics. So geopolitics.
The Pacific Rim is just fine.
Yeah, Dag's here for everything else. This is my one thing. Okay.
Time to shine, man.
Here it goes,
why does
guys.
the U.S. care?
Yeah. So basically in Chinese, of course, the communists have rewritten history. But anyways, the communists will tell you that they were like the saviors of fighting Japan, but they were only even involved, and I think minorly, in like 2 tiny skirmishes with the Japanese, to where and I forget the exact names of the groups were called, like I think the Chinese were like the nationalistic something, and then like the more capitalists were called something else. I forget off topic or offhand, but we've been looking at like 30 articles today, so please forgive me. But anyways, the capitalists did most of the fighting during the with Japan, and they're the reasons why Japan had to leave, pretty much. Not only that, but the Japanese lost to the U.S. as well during World War II. But the Chinese Communist Party will tell you otherwise. But then there was like conflict between the capitalists and the communists. And the reason why the capitalists lost is because they used most of their resources fighting the Japanese off. And the communists were pretty much just cowards and conserved resources to be able to take the country later. And so the capitalists fled to Taiwan, and Taiwan has been its own country ever since. They've never been a part of China. They've always been their own country. And this podcast will definitely be banned now that I'm saying this in China. But yeah, that's what really happened. And
so
yeah,
the current like hubbub then is or at least what I was hearing about, and it makes, now I see a related article here, it makes more sense, was something to do with Australia, but it looks like Australia, here's a headline, this other article: Australia warns China against threat or use of force following Taiwan air incursions. So the Taiwan article we were just talking about was they're saying that Chinese have been flying into their airspace or whatever. And so I guess like Australia is involved somehow, and I guess like when people say, "Oh, why would Australia be involved?" I guess it has, and I'm just again loosely going off of things I've heard other people talking about. But yeah, I guess they're saying that like probably the U.S. is like pressuring Australia to sort of help be their Pacific force against China, or give us a base there or a port or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess shit's happening. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Now coming out of like Afghanistan, right? Like, obviously we need a new war, right? So I'm kind of curious where that's going to be. Honestly, I was pretty convinced that they're just going to bring it all home, and use it against the population of the United States. Domestic terrorism, COVID, blah blah blah.
yeah, I mean they've got the National Guard, so I'm pretty sure that that the Guard can take care of it. But
it almost does sort of seem like maybe they're, because I do hear a lot of people talking about China, and I've never understood like people are like dislike of China or fear of China. It's always seemed kind of
propaganda
and propaganda, exactly. Propagandish to me, for I'm talking decades,
well,
so it's
I don't know.
I don't see China coming over here or anything, and they're like stealing our jobs. It's like, I don't know, man, you produce shit for cheaper. Blame the fucking government and regulation if you want to blame somebody,
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm definitely conflicted on China in many different ways, and I can go on.
They're a terrible government. I'm not like,
Yeah, and I can go on for hours, right? Like, my life has been greatly benefited personally by the Chinese. I mean, and many Americans have, by the gifts of China. I mean, we've benefited from cheap labor and exports
Harbor
for
Freight
like
tools exist.
Yeah. We've benefited like miraculously, and we've just given them debt for like all of these gifts and for goods. So like my life has personally been like greatly benefited, and many Americans too. So and I'm not in support of like slave labor, which many people mention, but I think that people are not like as well informed as they are, because in many cases it's like, well, do you want the kid to like work in a factory, or do you want the kid to work in the fields? And when kids work in the fields in China, when they or something worse, but when kids work in the fields in China, they risk death many times. And when they work in factories, they have much better standards of living, higher pay, and work quality. So you're pretty much like many of the factories that opened up in China actually saved like millions of lives, even if you want to call it slave labor. But there's a lot of like unforeseen like economic stuff that people are very like unaware of. So like I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I've studied like thousands of hours on it, and I still don't feel like an expert on the topic. Like I'm not, but yeah, I can say that I'm glad that those kids had an opportunity for a better life, and because many of them got the chance to work in a factory instead of the fields, that they become, managers of the factory and supervisors, and were able to progress their lives and get opportunities that they wouldn't have. But again, it's a communist country without freedom of speech, huge censorship. But they've had good things. They do cover up history. So it's not necessarily just like black and white, right? Like many of the Chinese actually don't like their governments, but even if they don't, they really can't tell you that they don't like it, because that would be illegal, and
that's the credit score.
Yeah, that would go against their credit score, which is they're fully releasing their new social credit score next year. So, anyways, yeah, I could go on about Asian politics forever, but I won't, because we've got limited time. But yeah, I think that the U.S. does want another war to give money to their buddies in the industrial complex, and a lot of the world right now is protesting and saying, "Hey, like we're not happy with the government locking us down." So, of course, when like the world is protesting, like before COVID, they come out with an event like COVID, which is proven to be released by multiple governments, not only Chinese, but US, and by Fauci's company, which was based in Wuhan. And yeah, I mean, so they could, they might need another distraction. They might need a Cold War. They might even need a hot war. And, even Trudeau said in that clip earlier, and many of the people in the World Economic Forum and the Bilderberg Group have mentioned that they want a great reset, which means they want to impoverish everybody. So, what's a good way to do that? A war. A war will definitely kill a lot of people, which, I'm pretty sure that that they're fans of depopulation, and they want a great reset, which, impoverishes everybody except for themselves, to create a world of slaves that they can rule over, or that they can be gods over. So yeah, is a war between the U.S. and China so far-fetched, whether it be a Cold War or a hot war? No, I don't think so at all. would a nuke completely distract everybody from the fact that people are starting to wake up from this COVID nightmare? And I see more people wake up every single day from it. So yeah, it's definitely, and I want to mention that just recently the U.S. politicians have mentioned that we need equality in terms of the draft, and that they want to be able to draft your daughters and draft your sisters into war, basically owning them and saying that they can, we can sacrifice them, we can make them die for us. That's what they're saying, and yeah, I think when you give them the power to say, even when it's just men, we can choose when you fight and die for us. We can choose that. I think that is really like the ultimate power. Like, that's, again, you're just government property ran in the military. You have no choice to do what they say. You're just an order follower. So if a lot of people domestically are upset, and they do a draft, well, a lot of the people in the draft at that point really don't have very much choice but to follow orders, or else there could be gruesome consequences. And we've seen that throughout history. You can be shot and killed. I think it was the Civil War, or the Revolutionary War, where it was like, if you don't do what we tell you to do, or if you defect, we will shoot and kill you. So yeah, it's we're entering into very interesting times. What do you got on this, Dag, before we move on?
Oh, I just want to say that I'm like the draft. Yeah, man, it's really one of the most terrible things, that they do. I mean, it's the fact that they drafted, that the North drafted people into the military in the Civil War to allegedly fight slavery, right? Which I know that was, we got a whole thing about that, but like that's just so like silly. But yeah, man, it's really awful. And yeah, back in those days, if you were rich, you could pay somebody to go in your place, which is, just seems very typical, send the poors,
send the slaves. Yeah, we'll just pay you.
Yep. And there was sometimes those conditions on coming into the country. Really crazy. But yeah, man, the draft's awful, and the fact that I haven't heard much about that they like because I think they passed that, right? That like it's they can draft chicks now, and I'm like I haven't heard anything like about that. I'm assuming that's terrible. Like my uncle was drafted.
I think they were
into Vietnam.
Oh, really? Was he? That's horrible. And
yeah, he was fucked up when he came back.
Yeah, I think everybody knows somebody that was drafted in Vietnam, but
fucking awful, man. I have mad respect for draft dodgers. Like people throw that around like it's like a bad thing. And I'm like, fuck no, dude, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's like the best.
Fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah, that like. I have more respect for draft dodgers than I do for people who entered the draft and went to war and was like, okay. I have more respect for people who were draft dodging and like left the country. Or these people who were like, well, I didn't really have a choice. I had to enter the military to go fight in the Iraq War back in the early 2000s. It's like bullshit. No, you didn't. First of all, there was no draft. Second of all, I myself had thought about it, but luckily I was a libertarian 2002. And I was like, you know what? Instead of like being an order follower for these murderers that I don't believe in, and for this war that I don't believe in, that's a lie. The Iraq War was just a lie. Weapons of mass destruction and all that. You know, I chose to flip burgers. Instead of join. So, no, we had a choice. And you know, could my life have been better if I had joined? Absolutely. GI Bill, all of the government benefits.
Could have been a lot fucking worse too.
Yeah, I could have been killed. Who knows, right?
Or just a murderer, you know.
Yeah, or a murderer. Yeah. But no, I had a choice, and I said, screw joining military, screw going to war for a lie, and screw being an order follower, and working for this evil extortionist organization called the U.S. government. So, next article.
I like that transition. Did we have another article? Oh, yeah, we do. You're right. All right, so this is our climate lockdown thing. All right. So we talked about this before too, climate lockdowns. Basically, you know, with the combination of COVID and just general climate, you know, hysteria. Of course, a lot of people have looked at things that have occurred while lockdowns were underway in relation to environmental, what have you. And, you know, obviously people not doing things like driving or using the canals in Italy or whatever, you know, reduce pollution, or in the canals case, they just allow it to settle so the water gets clear. But anyhow, they're like, oh, well, maybe lockdowns are a good thing, and we should consider, you know, environmental lockdowns and stuff. We have a article here from NASA, which says global climate change, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, you know, scientists can not consent. What's the word? Consensus. Yeah, consensus.
What's the exact title of the article, Doug?
It's local lockdowns brought fast global ozone reductions, NASA finds. So, and I'll go ahead and, you know, devil's advocate for a second out front here, like I got to do, but like, or steel man or whatever, but like I could see a sign for this event that happened, which was the lockdowns. I could see a lot of potential scientific, you know, findings or advantage or something that legitimate scientific community could get out of that, you know, as far as some sort of research opportunity you never get otherwise, you know. So, you know, that's cool. But this kind of stuff is really, you know, again, just gonna be fodder for the climate crazies, you know, to try and push whatever Greta Thunberg thing is going on right now. But basically the article is saying that, okay, they observed, you know, healing of the ozone, and they observed pollution dropping by, you know, as much as 50% in some areas when, you know, people were driving around. So, you know, of course, in like a big city, yeah, I imagine you'd probably see a pretty big pollution drop off, you know, during the lockdowns or whatever. Somewhere out in rural areas, probably not much of a difference. You know, but when they say, you know, local reductions as high as 50%, you know, it sounds really nice. But, you know, it's like, well, maybe cities are really gross, you know, but of course they're going to tell me I can't eat meat no matter where it comes from. You know, I can't eat meat because it's bad for the environment. And that's not what they're saying in this article or anything, but that's of course what this kind of stuff, you know, is used to promote, you know, and they just, you know, global climate change rather is just a given, you know, from NASA. And it's funny that NASA is one of the few like government agencies that it's like you can't like poo-poo, you know, oh, they're good and noble and they're about science, and we wouldn't have calculators and Velcro or whatever if it weren't for NASA, you know. But, you know, we talked about Operation Paperclip earlier, and that's how when a lot of them got started as, and why would they just be the one government organization that is just all cool, like, I don't know. I don't buy it, man. They're up to something. And I really used to be into the space program. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. Like, I was fascinated by it, so, it's a bummer for me, but I'm glad that we're getting some sort of at least semi-private space travel these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. That's what I got on that one. I honestly, other than like this article, is relatively recent. It's from June anyhow. I haven't heard much about the environmental stuff since like last year. When all this first started happening. Surprisingly. Did you see the Greta Thunberg, her like newest speech or whatever? It was a bunch of blah blah blah. She's like, oh, fucking climate justice, blah blah blah. This fucking regulation, blah blah blah. This and that, blah. Like, that was seriously half her speech was her saying blah blah blah, and like there was nothing there. Like, oh my god, this is awful.
Yeah, I did see that. I was like,
people were clapping and cheering. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Oh, those people are dummies. And it's like I'm kind
useful
of
idiots.
So, like, dude, seriously, man. Like, I used to be a little too much of a greenie, before I became a farmer and actually started working in like the field of actually helping the environment. I was like, oh yeah, all that's bullshit,
We forgive you, Jack. We forgive you.
I appreciate that. Hey, man, you got to start somewhere, dude. The only like political like protest thing like I've ever been to is I went to a march against Monsanto one time, and it was interesting. I don't need to go back, but it was an event. It was something.
I went to a Ron Paul speech in 2008 and then a Ron Paul speech in 2012. But other than that,
that's cool. I'd listen to Ron Paul talk.
So yeah, basically, I think that they're trying to use the environment to basically lock everything down again. They don't want you to move around. But with all those articles out of the way, Dag, where do you think things are heading?
Oh gosh, man. It's hard to say, and I will well admit that I have maybe been a little too white pilled from time to time, but I mean, me, it's hard for me to really swallow the black one. So like, I think it depends on where you live. I'm really curious to see what happens in places like New York and California. Remember earlier how you said that you said like Canada and like Britain or Australia or something, like where they try these things out, like globally, and like that's totally true. Like I totally agree, but it's like in like the US, it's like New York and shit, right? It's like where like they try this shit out. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what happens in like New York. With they've got their vaccine passport and everything, and there's been some interesting, chaotic sort of resistancy things, and not that I necessarily agree like with like those ladies beating up the hostess, at the restaurant, and saying it's racist because they wouldn't let them in without vaccine passports. And then BLM was there protesting and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't necessarily agree with I definitely don't agree with them beating up that lady, but it's like, shit like that's going to happen. It's like on the end of V for Vendetta when it's like, well, what's going to happen? He's like, well, some bad shit's going to go down. Like, and they show the scene of like, the cop like shooting that little girl, and then the people getting upset and beating the shit out of the cops, and it's like, but kind of something has to happen to set shit off. So anyhow, I'm not saying that I want to see violence. That's not what I want to see, but I'm just really curious to see what happens in places like that, to see what happens in places like Australia, to see what and how much people stand up to things. I mean, I know where I live, like, I just really have a hard time seeing, at least anytime soon, and by soon, I mean the next couple of years, I guess. I mean, how can I predict 5 or 10 years, But, like, I don't know, man. I just can't, like, we're not going to have a vaccine passport here for, like, to go to a restaurant, dude. I just can't see that. I've been wrong, man. And if that's the case, I don't know, dude. I don't know what I'll do. I mean, I won't go places that require it. Maybe I'll open a speakeasy restaurant. I don't know, man. But it's so far. I mean, obviously it's not over, but I mean, up to this point, it's been one like hell of a ride, just seeing and I guess we'll say almost 2 years now. The drastic changes in everything. Society. I'll say fashion, because what do we call a mask? How quickly that spread worldwide. Just today, I saw a lady, and I've seen her before, riding her bike down the side of the road, and there's no other people walking, anywhere by. She's wearing a mask, riding a bike, and it's not even a sidewalk, dude. Like, there's nobody there. There's nobody there. It's the middle of nowhere, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on in her head? Like, how scared shitless is she? And then they get mad that the media gets people like this, gets people so scared like this, and then I'm like, well, fuck, if they're that stupid, then maybe it's on them. But then I've got people I love and care about who are just really taken in by this, and it's disturbing and it's upsetting, and I don't know, man. I struggle with how do I interact with friends and family who are on the other side of this thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to disown people over it, but man, we're also talking about like fundamental like freedoms. If they think that they have the right to dictate that the government forcibly do something to me, like medical procedures,
what do you do at that point?
Yeah, man. That's tough. I don't think they're bad people.
The government's definitely used this as a divide and conquer.
Exactly. So I don't know, man. To answer your question, I'm just gonna say I have no idea. I think that in my area, at least for a while, I'll be okay. Things might get a little crazy, but we'll see. I know that I am just continually working to build my life in a way that. Okay, so there was a tweet. I don't remember who posted. I shared it recently, but it was like saying "do not comply" isn't like. Necessarily like, just not complying isn't like enough or the right thing. It's you need to make your life in a way that you don't have to comply.
You're government resistant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to where it's like, I don't have to comply because of whatever the way you set up your life. So, and I totally butchered whatever that tweet was, but that's basically the gist. And that's like, man, that's so true, because man, there's always, and this is one of the things before I was an anarchist, one of the things that I'm like, there's always going to be a gang out there who's trying to tax you, who's trying to do this or that. And that's why I was like, just anarchy will never exist, blah, blah, blah. And maybe that's true to an extent, there's always going to be someone out there fucking with you. And you just need to make it where they can't, or at least have a harder time with it. Make yourself a harder target.
Yeah.
Governments included. They're just gangs.
Absolutely. Yeah. You need to be resistant towards them. I've got a picture, if I could explain it here, of what things might look like. And it's probably it's probably appropriate since this is the last Endgame episode. But yeah, what I see is, and this is what I see if the people allow it to happen. And they've already allowed so much tyranny that I hope it doesn't happen, but definitely wouldn't be surprised if it did. So I see a world where people are chipped. They're pushed into smart cities. The chips track and trace everything. They are able to be turned off, which turns off your digital banking currencies, which turns off the ability to enter your housing, which turns off the ability to get food, which pretty much would take your credit score to zero, which, who knows what would happen. Maybe, if you get your chip turned off, you go to prison or something. Or you're like not medically, the government would pretty much be like, oh, well, you're not like medically able to associate in society because your chip's turned off. So, we have to put you in some kind of medical internment camp, which isn't too far-fetched considering what we're seeing in Canada and Australia. I see, governments controlling healthcare and doing death panels. I think any resistance to what they want will get your chip turned off, or at least get your credit score dropped. I think everything will be track and trace. You'll own nothing and be happy, which we've covered in a previous episode, which Klaus Schwab and the Economic Forum want. And you being a permanent renter will be a part of society, which means you will own nothing. I don't think you'll be happy, but they might provide medicine to make you happy. And I'm sure that they'll be able to track and trace your dopamine levels, dopamine and serotonin levels. I think that everything will be recorded, and keywords and key searches will be noticed. I think that everything will be restricted, and there will be zero liberty. I think that there will be constant propaganda against groups, societies, or people who live outside of the system. I think that vaccinations and certain medicine will be required when they say it is. And that will be a good way of getting rid of people who have too low of credit scores and just saying that it was a disease. I think permanent travel will be restricted due to either disease or saving the planet. I think drones will be a huge part of policing, and government will be so powerful that it will be multi-regional and collaborative in terms of a one world government, or as they like to say it, the New World Order. And I don't think that anything that I've said is too far-fetched. If you think it is, take a look at all 8 of our Endgame episodes, and every single source, news-wise, that we provide. Take a look at it and tell me if I'm too far-fetched. You can always comment, or even send me an email at agoristnexus.support@protonmail.com or agoristnexus@protonmail.com. There's also many places for you to comment. You can comment on any podcast on the website. Tell me if I'm too far-fetched. I don't think so, because of all of the propaganda and things that have come out. And if you really spend the time looking at all of our Endgame episodes, I do not believe that I'm too far-fetched. But, and I've got a really good track record. It's been an immaculate track record. Not as good as Alex Jones.
I hope you are too far-fetched.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope I'm totally wrong. I do not want to be right. I do not want to live in that world.
Well, like you said, look at the history of the episodes, and we end up being right, or you end up being right, I'm always the skeptic. I just have to say, I hope that by the time it gets to me, I'm dead. Fuck. Look, man, I try to be careful about what I say on here, but I will say, if any of that world you just fucking described is supposed to apply to me or reaches me, I'm gonna be dead one way or another, because that's fucked up. And I'll be the crazy old man on my farm if they just leave me alone, let me be that way, and they can do all that shit out there. I'm trying to build that up where I can be that. But yeah, man, Yeah, dude. So okay, so what do we do, or what do you recommend for people to either A, avoid that fate, or B, make it so it doesn't apply to them?
I'm so glad you brought that up because as a Agorist, we provide solutions.
We're about solutions,
Um,
baby.
and you said it perfectly. We not only can't comply, but we also have to make it. We have to put ourselves into a situation where we don't need to comply. So, you know, you have to be financially free so that if they tell you you need to do something or you need a vaccine or whatever, you can be like, no, I don't want that. I don't need that. You have to put yourself in good situations, and whether that's buying gold, crypto, or gold, silver, or crypto, those are the kind of situations that you have to put yourself in. One thing I forgot to brought up was this. These central bank digital currencies that they want to release globally. I think in the long term that they want a one world central bank currency for the new world order. and yeah, I think that once you're in that system, that it will be extremely impossible or almost impossible to get out of that system. So it is very important to prepare now so that when the day comes, you can tell them, where to shove this. So yeah, it goes back to, what many Agorists say, including, what's his name? Sandra H. Way and Saul Mayweather, myself, you. This goes back to what many Agorists say, which is, get a 3D printer and start manufacturing stuff. Be your own bank with cryptocurrencies, gold and silver. Grow your own food. And do anything and everything you can outside of their system. And I think it's probably going to come down to even corporate systems, because corporate-wise, most corporations are just going along with it. They're in bed with the government, not only going along with everything that the government says that the government says and wants, but they're going along with it. So I think that we even have to avoid, quote unquote, private corporations, which don't really seem to be very private now.
Private company, bro.
But since COVID-19 took out at least 60% of small businesses, you're forced to go with private corporations that the government knew would do anything and everything that they wanted. So complete corporate takeover, and this is exactly what Samuel Edward Compton warned us about. So yeah, private company, bro. As a Terminator, as a Skynet or a Costco Terminator crushes your skull on the side of the pavement for not wearing a mask. So I think that was part of that was in Babylon Bee or something. I don't know.
Oh fuck!
But
that was good.
Yeah. Any other conclusions before we wrap up? I've got a great quote here pretty soon.
So. Yeah, no, man. I'm bored with everything you said, dude. Like I said, we just gotta fucking make our own systems. Do the best you can. If you have the option to patronize businesses that are not compliant with that shit, you know what I mean? If you're in fucking New York City and there's a place that isn't accepting requiring passports, like fucking give them your money, dude. Like, I don't know. It's probably about some of the easiest shit you could do. Otherwise, yeah, man, be your own bank, grow your own food, or be friends with somebody you can. Shit like that, man. Oh yeah, no, I think it's been a good bow on this, man. It's been a fun series for sure.
Before we wrap up with this quote that you should definitely stick around with, I have to say thank you to Dag for putting up with me, for joining the Nexus, for doing everything that he has, and everybody else.
Buddy.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
That's sweet. Thank you.
I don't mean to get emotional, but thank you so much. And everybody else who's contributed to the Nexus, I can't thank you enough. We've got, I don't even know how many writers, 12, 13, 14, I don't know. Great. Many of them well-known anarchist writers and voices in the community. And,
definitely a good crew.
I'm just super humbled. And I wake up even though things are bad, I wake up in a dream, almost paradise-like, knowing that I've got such a great community behind me, you, the listeners, support from our sponsors and other people who message me personally. And if you guys want to message me personally, please do at agoristnexus@protonmail.com. If you want to get involved, or if you feel like you can contribute in any way, shape, or form, or if you just want to get to know me, I will take time out of my day to do that. We don't ever really ask for money here. I don't have a Patreon. I don't have a Subscribe Star. I don't tell you to, pay for super chats. And, I don't tell you to join the LP or whatnot. But, I think that or wait around for Dave Smith to run for president. I think that we offer actual solutions. But, not that I have anything against Dave Smith, but just as an example. But yeah,
politics won't save us. It is the point.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. Before I get too emotional, because I think I've had 5 or 6 beers during this this whole thing, because we're wrapping.
He's been peeing in a Gatorade bottle for 2 hours, guys. This is serious.
Got me some slack. But yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's contributed. We've had very few donations, but the people who have, I don't know who you are, but thank you. We've had people who have come to us and offered friendship. Thank you so much. Anybody who follows us on social media, thank you so much. I don't know how to thank you more than this, but to wrap up our Endgame series, I think I'll call it in plain sight, or coming soon, or coming into view, or I don't know, Endgame, something along those lines. But yeah, we'll have a great documentary coming out with it. And to end this off, I'll end it with a quote. If you don't have anything else, Tag.
Nah, man, let's do it.
Here it is. It is evil. It is huge. It is the state. Can a ragtag band of rebels, such as we, hope to prevail against an overwhelming terror? Yes, for the state is massive, yet fragile, for it is built on a foundation of lies. These lies are only now being consistently exposed. Help wield the sword of truth and the shield of valor. Renew your dedication to freedom, anarchy, and the Agora. Samuel Edward Conkin III, Agorist Nexus out.